Hello, and welcome to the Berkeley Global Information session on academics and applying for classes. Let me begin by introducing ourselves. My name is Kevin Guzman, and I am joined by my colleague Juliana Struve, and we are some of your Berkeley Global Student Advisors. As part of Berkeley Global Student Services, we are here to guide you on how to apply to your UC Berkeley courses and give tips on how to have a successful academic experience. If you have any questions, go ahead and send them in. We'll do our best to answer as we go through the presentation. As part of the Berkeley Global Student Services team, we also help students with a variety of other issues, such as understanding health insurance, providing resources for your housing search, and helping you adjust to Bay Area culture. We also help you with your visa status if you are an international student by preparing and issuing your visa documents and connecting you with academic resources to make sure you have an excellent experience during your studies at Berkeley. To start things off today, let me explain what concurrent enrollment means, as this process most likely differs from how you are traditionally enrolled in your classes at your home university. On the one hand, concurrent enrollment enables students to enroll in UC Berkeley courses without actually requiring formal admission into the university, like your matriculated UC Berkeley peers. On the other hand, students participating in UC Berkeley courses through concurrent enrollment have a different process for enrolling in these classes, and this is what we will be talking about today. Concurrent enrollment is only available during the spring and fall semesters, but it is a great way to allow students like yourselves to enroll in many of our courses that are taught by world-renowned professors. That being said, let's begin with a brief overview of today's presentation. In order to help guide our discussion on academics at Berkeley, we have 5 topics that we would like to talk about today. First, we'll start with how to search for classes at UC Berkeley and provide an overview of our different course modalities in response to the ongoing pandemic. We will then talk about how you will apply for classes through concurrent enrollment, followed by the approval process. Then we will provide a brief summary of rules and policies regarding full-time study if you are here with us on an F1 visa. Please note that unless you have a Form I-20 and a valid F1 visa, this information will not apply to you. And lastly, we will finish up with some tips and tricks on how to get the classes you want and other helpful student information. So, let's begin by explaining how you can search for your classes. As a former Berkeley student, I have to admit that there are so many amazing classes to take, and it can be hard to choose which ones are right for you. Fortunately, we have the Berkeley Academic Guide to help you make the right decision. So, to get started on your class search, you will want to visit guide.berkeley.edu. Here, you can peruse through the different courses that are offered by the various campus departments under the section labeled Course Catalog. On this site, you will also see the different courses offered and a brief summary of the course. Once you have an idea of the different classes that suit your academic interests, scroll over to the section labeled Class Schedule to begin searching for your courses. Remember to select the correct term that you will be studying. You can scroll through all the classes, or if you have a particular subject in mind, you can enter it in the search bar. Once you have found your course, you will be able to see all the relevant information about it. You can read a short description of the course, the name of the professor, when and where the class will be held, how many units the course is worth, the instruction mode, which we will talk about soon, and how many seats are available. However, I believe the most important piece of information is the class number located on the left-hand side. This is the number you'll need to remember when actually applying for the class. From my personal experience, if there is a substantial amount of open seats available, then there is a good chance you will be able to enroll in the class. We'll go over this in just a minute. Given the ongoing pandemic, we also want to take a moment to point out the changes that UC Berkeley has made to its mode of instruction. By mode of instruction, we are referring to the different ways in which course lectures, discussions, labs, etc. are delivered during the semester. These changes were made to ensure that students are able to continue their studies no matter where they are living during these trying times. It is important that you understand and pay attention to these new modes of instruction as they will impact how your course schedule looks. In the next slides, we will provide an overview of the course modalities so that you can determine which mode of instruction is best for you and your schedule. The first terms that we would like to cover are remote learning and online learning. To most people, these terms may seem interchangeable. However, they are very different at UC Berkeley. On one hand, remote learning refers to courses that were originally designed to be delivered in person, but are now being delivered online in response to the ongoing pandemic. On the other hand, online learning refers to courses that from the beginning were designed to be delivered online. These courses are optimized for an online learning experience and undergo an approval process to be delivered in this format. The next terms we would like to go over are synchronous and asynchronous. Beginning with synchronous, this term refers to courses in which students participate in class on predetermined days and times listed on the schedule of classes. Synchronous courses are most similar to normal courses in that your participation may be in person or remote. These class sessions may or may not be recorded to allow you to watch the course at a later time. So it is important that you participate in the course in much the same way you would a normal course. Lastly, we want to note the time difference for those of you who are not physically located in the Pacific Standard Time Zone. Because you are expected to participate in class, if you are in a different time zone, you will need to calculate what time the class meets in your local time. Contrary to synchronous, asynchronous refers to courses in which the professor has recorded the class sessions and makes these recordings available to you, thereby allowing you to view it on your own time. Although the lectures may be viewed at a later time, the course may include collaborative assignments such as discussion threads where you will still interact with other classmates. Asynchronous courses are a way to give remote students the flexibility to study wherever they would like. One thing we also want to mention is that for some asynchronous courses, the final exam may be synchronous. Please keep this in mind before enrolling in an asynchronous course. Before we proceed to talking about applying for classes, let's briefly review a few more key terms regarding mode of instruction. For students who will be joining us here in Berkeley, hybrid courses may be an option for you. These courses provide you with a combination of remote and in-person learning, with some in-person participation being required should public health regulations permit. Flexible courses are another term in which courses are offered in different modes of instruction, and you can choose the type of instruction that suits your academic needs. Lastly, you may see the terms in-person pending and flexible pending. These refer to courses that are still pending approval for either in-person or flexible modes of instruction. Now, we understand that this might seem like a lot of information all at once. However, we simply want to provide an overview of the new modes of instruction, and we will be going over this information again during orientation. Now that you are familiar with how to search for classes, understand the different modes of instruction, and have a tentative class schedule, you are ready to begin applying for your classes. You will receive more information about this in the coming weeks. In the meantime, you should create a list of classes you would like to take so you are ready when applications are open. To start applying for classes, you will need to log into your CalCentral account. For those of you who don't know, CalCentral is the system we use to bring together all student data into a central location for easy viewing. you should visit calcentral.berkeley.edu to access the portal and log in with your CalNet ID. Let me also remind you that in addition to your CalCentral, you still have your extension account since you are also extension students participating in concurrent enrollment. This is a key thing to remember because when it comes time to pay for your courses, you will find your invoices for the courses you have chosen not on CalCentral, but actually on your extension account. Once you have signed in, you'll arrive at the CalCentral dashboard. This area of CalCentral may look bare when you first log in, but it will contain all the important information you need to know once you have been enrolled in courses. For now, you will want to scroll over to My Academics. Once you've switched over to My Academics, you should scroll over to the concurrent enrollment card on the right-hand side. Look for the Apply to a Class icon and click on it. This becomes available only after class applications are open, about 3 weeks before the semester begins. From here, a new tab will open up in your browser and the class enrollment e-form will appear. This is the form that you will use to initiate the enrollment in a course. Now, I know this might seem like a hassle, but please keep in mind that you will need to submit a new e-form for every class that you would like to enroll in. Once you have clicked Next, you may begin filling out the e-form. To make things simple, I recommend that you have ready the 5-digit class number that I mentioned earlier. You can use this number to search for the exact class that you want. On this page, you will also be able to select your grading basis, which will need to be either graded or pass/no pass. I want to point out that you may change your grading option later, but be sure to do so before the deadline. Once you've selected your class, you may be required to take an additional discussion section. Here at UC Berkeley, class sizes may be quite large and oftentimes courses are broken into smaller discussion sessions that are led by a graduate student instructor. This allows for a more intimate learning environment where students can speak up and engage in lively discussion on the readings and lectures. Keep that in mind when selecting your discussion section or lab. Now, if you would like to tell the professor more about yourself and your qualifications for the class, feel free to do so in the section labeled Additional Information. For some students who are part of a concurrent enrollment program hosted by a campus department, you may indicate that you are part of this group in this section. For example, if you are a part of programs such as the Berkeley International Study Program or the College of Engineering Globe program, please indicate that here in the Additional Information section. Once you have filled in all your information correctly and you are ready to submit the application, please simply click Submit. Once your application is submitted, it is possible to come back and make changes to your application, such as changing your lab or discussion section. After that, it's just a waiting game to see whether or not your enrollment will be approved. I'll now let my colleague Juliana take it from here to talk more about the class approval process.
Okay, now that we've reviewed the process of how to apply for classes through CalCentral, let's look a little bit deeper at what happens after you have submitted your class enrollment e-forms. Specifically, we will look at the class approval process. One thing to keep in mind is that just because you have submitted a class enrollment form through CalCentral, this does not guarantee your enrollment in that particular class. You will only be officially enrolled in the class once you have received approval. Another thing to note is that the class application approval process consists of multiple steps, and it can take some time to see whether or not you have been approved for the class. There are 3 levels of approval that each class application goes through: the instructor level, the department chair level, and finally the level of the dean. I would like to stress here that an instructor's approval is not enough. 2 additional levels of approval are needed for course enrollment. Please keep in mind that the entire approval process may take 2 or 3 weeks before your course approval is finalized. Now that we have a better understanding of the 3 levels of the approval process, let's turn to your course application status. You can check your course application status by logging into your CalCentral account. On the screen is a guide to the different statuses a course approval could have in your CalCentral account. Pending indicates that no approvals have been issued yet. Withdrawn indicates that you have withdrawn your application for this course. Denied indicates that you will not be permitted to take this course. And executed indicates that you have been approved to take the course. You will receive a confirmation of this by email. With that said, let's jump right in and talk quickly about rules and policies as a student on an F1 visa. For those of you joining us in the U.S. on an F1 student visa, let's briefly discuss some important rules and policies related to your full-time status as an F1 student. Let's start with the most important rule regarding your visa status, which is being enrolled full-time. As an F1 student, you are required to be enrolled in a full-time course of study, and that means taking at least 12 units per semester. However, some students are required to take more than 12 units depending on the program or their home university's requirements. The course in which you are enrolled must be taken for either a letter grade or pass, no pass. You might be wondering, what is pass, no pass? So let me briefly explain. Pass, no pass is a grading option that allows you to take a class without necessarily focusing too much on the grade. For example, if you were interested in taking a Spanish class, but were concerned about how the class might affect your grade, you could select to take the class Pass, No Pass. Of course, remember that you still need to earn at least a C- in the class for it to count as a passing grade. And I recommend you consult with your academic advisor before making this choice. During normal time, there are special rules regarding online classes. Generally speaking, international students are not allowed to take more than 3 units per semester of online courses, based on a 12-unit course load. However, with the ongoing pandemic, it is possible to take more than this maximum amount of units online. If you have any questions about this, please reach out to us. I'll display our contact information on the last slide of this presentation. I also want to mention that the following grading option is not eligible for F1 students. NC, or not for credit, is not permissible because it does not allow you to take a full-time course of study. Now, I understand that there may be some students who are interested in just sitting in on a professor's class, but please remember to get permission first and keep in mind that in many cases you will not have free time to audit a class while doing a full course load at UC Berkeley. A W, or withdrawal, is also not allowed unless you are withdrawing from the course, and this will not affect your full-time enrollment. For example, if you are having difficulty with a course worth 3 units, but are enrolled in 12 units and are thinking about dropping the course, you will not be able to do so without compromising your full-time enrollment. Dropping the course would place you below full-time enrollment. One thing to remember is that you are responsible for maintaining your F1 status, and we are here to help. If you feel like things aren't going well, or you think you are at risk of being below a full course of study, please contact us and we will be able to help you set things right and guide you on your next steps. Next, let's transition to some tips and tricks for academic success at UC Berkeley. By sharing these tips and tricks with you all, We hope that you will use them to have the best learning experience you can at Berkeley. We will specifically go over tips for successful enrollments, class expectations at UC Berkeley, and we will share some advice on how to get your class materials. Now let's jump ahead to when you are ready to start your classes. We have several tips to share with you today for a successful enrollment process. Our first tip is that while your course applications are pending, it is very important that you attend the first meeting of every class you applied for, and that you continue to attend those classes while you wait for an application decision. This also applies to students participating in remote courses. If your course application is denied, you must stop attending that particular course. If you no longer wish to take a class, withdraw your application through your CalCentral account. If you do not withdraw your application, you will be charged tuition for this course later. After your course application is approved, you are permitted to change your grading option. As a reminder, you may only select the grading or pass/no-pass option. Please do not pressure campus academic departments, faculty, or administrators regarding getting into a particular course. For international students here on an F1 visa, please consult with us at UC Berkeley Extension before the add deadline if you think that you will not be approved for at least 12 units, or if you have any concerns about course enrollment. We are more than happy to assist you. Finally, it's important to remember your deadlines. As concurrent enrollment students, your deadlines are different from those of degree-seeking Berkeley students. You must follow the concurrent enrollment deadlines outlined on the UC Berkeley Extension website. The link to those dates is included on this slide. Now let's jump ahead to the classroom experience. You may be wondering, what's it really like in a U.S. classroom? Are Berkeley professors different from the professors at my home institution? What can I expect? One thing you may find different when studying at UC Berkeley is the availability of professors and teaching assistants. Every course you take at UC Berkeley will have office hours every week. These are times when you as the student can meet with professors or graduate student instructors one-on-one to ask questions, get advice, and discuss how things are going in the class. Please note that most office hours will take place virtually during this time. Another thing to keep in mind is that student participation is very important at UC Berkeley. Your professors and GSIs will value your input during class discussions, so don't hesitate to raise your hand, ask questions, and share your opinion. If you're shy, consider attending office hours to discuss this with your professor or GSI. One great way to meet other students is through your classes. Getting a group together to study before a big exam can be helpful for both learning and making new friends. Finally, I cannot stress enough the importance of communication. Communicate with your professors and GSIs about any issues related to your coursework. Communicate with Berkeley Global Student Services about any issues related to your course enrollment. The bottom line is, if you need help with anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. We do want to take a moment and acknowledge that for many of your courses, you will be engaging in a remote learning environment. That being said, here are 4 key tips we recommend to ensure a successful remote learning experience. First and foremost, we recommend that you create a schedule. If you are studying remotely, you may not have the same daily routine of getting ready for class and traveling to campus. Coupled with assignments and readings, it is very important to set up your schedule in a way that allows you to keep track of these assignments as well as your Zoom meetings, so that you aren't late to or miss a class. Also, make sure that you set up a productive workspace. While it may sound appealing to study from the comfort of your bed, we recommend that you have a designated space where you can work effectively. be it a dining room table or a study desk in your room. We also recommend that you have the right tools to learn successfully. Please ensure that you have a stable internet connection and that your electronics such as your laptop, webcam, headphones, etc. are in good working order. This will make your class time focus more on the actual lecture rather than whether or not your professor can hear you. Lastly, remember to take breaks from time to time. Over the past few months, we've discovered that Zoom fatigue is a real thing, and it's important to get up and step away from our computers during our breaks. Remember to stretch and drink plenty of water. With these tips in mind, you may find that your days spent on Zoom are more effective and engaging. Additionally, we will go into further detail on this topic during your orientation module. Now, we're going to share a few tips about course materials and the resources that are available to you on campus. The courses you take at UC Berkeley will have required course materials. However, we do want to preface by saying that during this time, UC Berkeley professors and instructors have been encouraged to consider using course material that is broadly accessible to all students. At UC Berkeley, we understand that studying remotely may make it harder to obtain key course materials. That is why we would like to take a moment to highlight your options when it comes to course material. You are welcome to buy your textbooks and keep them, but you can also rent them and save money. Websites like Amazon and Chegg are excellent resources for textbook rentals. At the end of the semester, you also have the option to sell your textbooks. Amazon has this feature, or you can go to Pegasus Books or Half Price Books, both located in downtown Berkeley. You may find that some of your courses require course readers. A course reader is a collection of readings compiled by the professor. Course readers are sold at coffee shops near campus. In some cases, your professor may provide these readings on your Class B course page. However, if a course reader is required, please consult with your professor for guidance on how you might access these readings if studying remotely. Finally, we've included some useful resources to help you during your studies at Berkeley. Berkeley has more than 20 different libraries. Follow the link provided to learn more about how you can borrow books with your Cal One card and when each library is open for study. Additionally, we want to point out UC Berkeley libraries are working hard to provide digital copies of required course material for certain courses. Your professors and graduate student instructors will have more information on this topic if it applies to your course. Lastly, the Student Learning Center is another great campus resource. The SLC provides activities and programs to support the learning of all students at UC Berkeley. Follow the link to learn more about what they have to offer. Thank you for your attention and for submitting your questions, many of which we've been able to answer during the presentation. Here are a few more that have come in.
This is a common question. What do I put in the text field of my application for courses? Well, the simple answer is that you can put any information that you would like the professor to know about you and your academics. Here you can describe any prerequisite classes you have taken or any previous experience you have had with the subject. You can use this space to better explain why you would like to take this class. Another common question is, my first class ends at 2 p.m. and my next class starts at 2 p.m. Can I take two classes that have back-to-back schedules? Well, generally speaking, we would say yes, because here at UC Berkeley, we have something called Berkeley time, which means that classes don't officially start until 10 minutes after the hour. This allows students to get from class to class if they have back-to-back schedules. However, if you plan on doing this, please keep in mind the distance between the two classes. We would never advise taking two back-to-back classes on opposite sides of campus because you will never make it to class on time.
Here's an academic question. What should I do if I want to change my lab or discussion section? Unfortunately, if you want to change a lab or discussion section, you will need to cancel your concurrent enrollment e-form for that particular class and resubmit a new e-form with the correct lab or discussion section. Someone has just asked, how long does it take for me to get enrolled in classes? The answer to this question varies from class to class, but generally it may take up to the third week of the semester until you are fully enrolled in a class. Of course, this depends on the course in question, and you may be approved sooner or later depending on factors like popularity of the class and available seats. We have time for a couple more questions. Here's one. How can I have a better chance of getting into the courses I want? Well, it helps if you can demonstrate your qualifications for that class in the e-form. Also, it helps if the class in which you want to enroll has plenty of available seats. While there's no guarantee that you will get into the class you want, you're bound to have an excellent semester with the classes in which you do enroll, and it will be a worthwhile experience nonetheless.
And as we approach the end of our presentation, we have time for one last question, and here it is. What happens if I don't get approved for at least 12 units? Well, if you are not approved for 12 units, you are more than welcome to enroll in any of our many courses offered through UC Berkeley Extension. Our courses are open enrollment, and there are many different courses offered throughout the semester. So there is always an option to enroll in our courses if you need just a few more units to maintain your full-time visa status. Additionally, you can also take what are called decal courses. These are generally 1 to 2 unit courses that are led by UC Berkeley students. They often cover very interesting topics and expose you to topics you might not otherwise learn in an ordinary lecture. To learn more about decals and the courses being offered, please visit decal.berkeley.edu. Thank you all for attending the Academics and Applying for Classes webinar. We have been typing answers to questions throughout the webinar. We will stay for a few minutes after the webinar ends to make sure we answer all questions. Please keep in mind, if you would like to review this information, we will be sending the recording of this webinar to you very soon. We hope this was helpful in your class search. Again, if you have any further questions or concerns, please reach out to us by emailing extension-intl@berkeley.edu. When sending us an email, please remember to include your extension ID number so we can pull up your information quickly and provide you with an answer faster. Thank you for watching our webinar, and we look forward to seeing you in Berkeley. Have a great day.